Hey guys, it's your boy Dion with his dick here. Sorry for the long wait. A lot of things has been going on, but for right now, I'm actually going to start like a scary series, a creepy series. So the first thing I'm going to post is a Mr. Nightmare video called Three Creepy True Stalker Horror Stories. So guys, be prepared because you will be scared. So anyways guys, please like. Anyways, guys, let's start this off with 1, 2, 3. Let's do this. Story 1.
In my early days after graduating college, I didn't have a lot of money, so I had to rent an apartment with someone else who I'd never met before. He'd become my roommate, and his name was Randall. At first, he seemed easy enough to get along with. He didn't talk too much, but he had a heavy Spanish accent. The room I'd be getting was already furnished, and that was one of the appealing factors to this apartment. It had a twin-sized bed tucked in the corner, a nice-sized dresser, a closet, and a TV stand in another corner of the room. There were a bunch of stuffed animals sitting on the dresser though, which I found a bit odd, most notably a big teddy bear facing the bed. When I asked Randall about the stuffed animals, he gave a really loud laugh and said his room had the same thing. He recommended I leave them be as to show respect to the landlord. I didn't really talk to Randall much that first day other than that. I spent most of my time unpacking my clothes and supplies and setting up my TV. When I was laying in the bed watching TV that night, I thought I heard something. It was a very brief noise, but it was definitely audible, and it sounded like some kind of small electronic component. I chalked it up to being a house noise and continued my show. The next day, Randall wasn't home all day. I didn't know if or where he worked, but I just assumed he was at work. That night, when I was in my room watching TV, I heard the front door open, and Randall walked through the hall to his room before shutting the door. A little later, I was getting changed into my pajamas when I heard the same sound from the night before. This time without the TV noise in the background, so I heard it much clearer. It was definitely some kind of electronic device, but I didn't know what or where. It still didn't seem like a big deal, so I got into my bed and started reading my current book at the time, then went to sleep.
Okay.
The next day, I saw Randall when I came home after work, and he asked me what book I was reading. At first, I didn't get the question, but then he said he was talking about the book that I was reading in my room. I looked at him in silence and confusion. I asked him how he knew I was reading the book, and he said in his heavy Spanish accent that he had to go into my room just to take something out that he left in there, and that's when he noticed the book. I asked him nicely not to go into my room anymore. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lock on the door, so I couldn't stop him when I wasn't home. That night, when I grabbed my book from under my bed, I stopped and wondered, how would he see my book if I had it under my bed? Thinking about this now creeped me out, and I was in no mood to read anymore. I looked around the room as I thought to myself, then I noticed that big teddy bear on the dresser again.
Yeah, wait a minute.
It was angled so perfectly to face me in the bed. Then I had a thought.
I think it has a camera. I think it has a camera.
I stood up and walked over to the bear, grabbed it, and looked closely into its eyes. I felt my heart skip a beat when I realized there was a camera in one of the eye holes.
Yo, I knew it. It had to be a camera.
I threw the thing into the corner of the room and went to Randall's door and tried opening it. His door apparently had a lock because it wouldn't open, but I knew he was in there. I pounded on the door screaming his name, but he wouldn't answer. I saw the light sneaking in through the bottom of the door go dark, as I assumed he turned off the light. I went back to my room and called the landlord. I explained everything and told him I'm leaving right now, and I had a valid reason to void the contract. I packed the little amount of things I brought into my car and left that same night, never looking back. The landlord surprisingly never even came to me to collect the money for those few days I was there. Ever since that night, I have a phobia of stuffed bears. Like, I always have to turn them away so that they're not facing me.
Oh wow, well that first story wasn't really that bad, but it still was kind of creepy. The fact that the guy was actually watching him throwing on the camera on the teddy bear, it did kind of seem kind of obvious that he was looking at him throwing the freaking teddy bear. That is creepy. I'll give you that. But okay, let's see what part 2 is going to be like. I'm really interested because the first story was actually good, but let's see if the second story is better. So let's start this off with 1, 2, 3. Let's do this.
It's 2016. Our new neighbors invite our family over for a nighttime barbecue. My mom and my dad and my sister and I meet in their backyard at like 8 o'clock. This is the first time that I personally meet them. It's just a husband and wife and a teenage boy. I quickly learn the boy's name is Jeremy. The husband seems to be the nicest of them all. There's something cold about the wife, and the son Jeremy seems to have some kind of mental or social issues because he won't talk at all. He constantly looks all over the place, and he seems to be really sad or gloomy. I also catch him staring at me a few times. Each time I grow increasingly uncomfortable around him, I try even harder not to look at him anymore. After eating a burger and hot dog each, our parents pretty much talk to his parents. I wait a little bit before sneaking back to our house because I was bored and uncomfortable. The next day on my walk to school, since I live 2 blocks away from the high school, I turn my head around a few houses after passing our neighbor's house and see someone jump behind a tree as if to be hiding. I turn back in front of me and start to walk faster. I get to the last block before the school and turn around again. This time I see the same person hiding in a bush in front of someone's house. It's Jeremy. I can tell by his long hair, and he's looking right at me. I walk as fast as I can without running, and make it to the school safely a minute later. When I get home that day, I tell my parents, and they go over and talk to the neighbors. When my parents come back to talk to me, I learn from them that Jeremy is apparently not like the other kids, according to his parents word for word. That also seemed to be enough explanation for my parents to tell me to just ignore him, as if him following me to school wasn't an insanely creepy thing to do.
Exactly.
Later on, I go outside to sit on the patio and do my homework, and just as Jeremy and his creepiness come to mind, I turn to look at the neighboring house, up at the only window that overlooks our backyard. And there he is. Jeremy is sitting at that window looking at me. And as he notices me, he quickly hides. I run inside and tell my parents, and they once again quote what his parents said and tell me not to worry about him. Later that night, after texting friends and whatnot in bed, I finally put my phone down on the desk and roll on my side to go to sleep. A certain amount of time that I can't remember passes before I hear a click at my window, and then suddenly my window slides open. Without even knowing who's there, I scream at the top of my lungs, and soon my parents come rushing inside, all while I'm pressing up against the wall in shock as someone climbs through my window into my room. My parents turn on the lights, revealing Jeremy holding a large kitchen knife.
Whoa!
Everyone screams, including my father, as he comes and grabs me to pull me out of the room. The 4 of us all rush to the neighbor's house to tell them. The man next door leads us into our own house and grabs his son when he finds him in the living room. He snatches the knife from his hands and tugs him out of the house. My dad sends all of us inside as he stays outside screaming at the man next door. Moments later, he comes back inside and calls the police to get a restraining order. My dad promised those neighbors a living hell if they were not moved out by the next week. The police come and take Jeremy away, probably to some kind of place for people with mental disabilities, not a regular jail. Moving along to a week later, Jeremy didn't stay in that house anymore. We don't know where he stays now, but we've never seen him since.
Wow. Now, yeah, that story was actually better than the first story. Wow, that is actually really creepy. The fact that he has, yeah, it seemed like he really did have really bad mental issues. If you're sitting here following somebody and then hiding and all this other shit, and then you come inside the people's house with a kitchen knife, like that is really creepy. Like I really cannot, like, I don't listen, man. I'm literally lost for words for just hearing that alone. Like, I would definitely get a restraining order too, and I'm glad. I don't know what is he doing, man. I don't know what mindset was he on during that time, but yeah, he needed some serious help. But thank God nobody was hurt or anything. Thank God. But yeah, that story is pretty creepy. Alright, now it's time for story 3. I'll start this off in 1, 2, 3. Let's do this.
This story was by far the scariest thing to ever happen in my life. I went to a bar with my friends on a Saturday night, and as we usually did, we all got decently intoxicated. The night became a complete blur about an hour after showing up to the bar. I vaguely remember talking to a few guys that came up to me. Didn't remember anything out of the ordinary, though. I live walking distance to the bar we were at that night, so I guess when I got tired or bored, I left. And I do remember walking to my house that night. I think it was when I was starting to sober up a little bit. We always used to leave a key under a flower pot in our stoop, and I always used that key on nights like this so that I wouldn't have to walk around with my keys on me while I'm drunk. I got home, locked the door behind me, and went straight to my room to fall into my bed. I skipped the changing into pajamas and brushing my teeth and whatnot. I did lay there awake with my phone in my hands, texting my friends, seeing if they were still there and making sure they got home okay though. Suddenly, I heard the front door open downstairs. The only thing I was thinking was that it could be my little brother getting home, since he usually got home really late. My best friend texted back, asking how I got away from the guy. I replied back, "What guy?" She said the creep that wouldn't stop talking to me at the bar. The bar was such a blur that I didn't remember which specific guy she could be talking about. I heard some noises downstairs. I assumed my brother was making a late-night snack in the kitchen. Then I heard walking up the stairs. My best friend texted me again, saying she saw him leave the bar right after me. Now, I was still decently drunk, but still, I was starting to become suspicious. Steps came up the stairs outside, then stopped outside my door. Then the door quietly opened. It was dark outside of the room too, so I couldn't see who was standing at my door. I said my brother's name, and then the door shut. But I didn't hear whoever it was walk away, so I was led to believe they were standing outside my door. I immediately texted my brother, asking if it was him. Surprisingly, he texted back right away, saying, "Was what me? Why do you keep opening the front door?" We live with our mom. She's the only other person in the house, but she was away for the week, so I didn't know what to think, other than it was an intruder. I called the cops without telling my brother, and hearing 911 "What is your emergency?" for the first time in my life really made the situation seem that much more severe. I described what I believed to be a break-in, and as I was on the phone, I leaned over, turned on my bedroom lamp. As the room went from dark to bright, I saw a man standing in the corner of the room by the door. I screamed and shrieked while still on the line with a 911 operator, who kept asking what's wrong. The man in the corner opened the door and fled the scene. I heard him run out the front door. I stayed on the line with the operator, who advised me every move I should make until a cop car actually showed up. I was still intoxicated, so the info I gave on the police report was probably not the most accurate, but I described the man to be mid-20s looking, stocky, full beard, and a short haircut. One of the two officers then lifted his hand, revealing a key he was holding, and said he found that in the front door lock. It was the spare key that we keep under the flower pot. The intruder used it to get in, meaning he followed me home and watched me take the key from under the pot. The officer told me to rest assured he'd be patrolling close around the area all night, and advised my brother and I to keep our doors locked and find a new hiding spot for the key. The next day, besides my hangover, I felt relieved. I told my friends about what happened, and they described everything in detail, that some creepy-looking guy in the bar had been following me all night trying to talk to me every chance he got, and somehow I was oblivious to it. I took a long break from going to bars, and we don't hide a key outside anymore.
Okay, wow, that is really crazy. I gotta say, the scariest story got to be the second one, because it could have been a murder taking place, but even the third story could have ended up in murder or something. But it is really creepy that the guy was literally right there, like he just followed this girl all the way from the bar to her house, and that's really creepy. Like if I would have seen that guy like right there, I'm like, oh, all right, come on, now we got Mitch. Come on, he don't got no type of what's up. Show you good. I'm gonna be all out, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna do that. Hadouken! But anyways, yeah. Please go subscribe to this Nightmare. this and even more scarier videos. So just please put down your recommendations down in the comment section below. Let me know if you want to see more about hitting that like button, subscribing to my channel, and sharing to all your peoples. And bye.